Hi everyone. Welcome to today's Build Your Simulation Moldflow IQ webinar. Thank you for joining us today, and as seen there, what we're going to discuss is pre-simulation geometry prep using Autodesk SimStudio Tools, which is a new program that will kind of go into describing a little bit about it and see if it'll be helpful for your applications. My name is Kristen Kilroy. I'm a simulation support specialist for Moldflow products, and I'm located up in New England. And when I'm not working on Moldflow, I usually try to find the next best hike up here with all these great mountains around. And assisting me today with some of the demo portion is James Youmatz. And James, you want to chime in there?
Hi everybody, how you guys doing today? Yep, so I'm James Youmatz. I just graduated from the University of New Hampshire with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Like Kristen, I like to be in the outdoors. I like to go on hikes. I like to fish, camp, do all that good stuff. So it's pretty good that we get to live in New Hampshire, right, Kristen?
Oh yeah, definitely, especially with fall coming up. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this presentation here. And like I said, we'll discuss a little bit more about SimStudio. Now, as with all the webinars, you can feel free to chime in with any questions that you have. On the GoToWebinar app, there's a question section. So we'll either answer these behind the scenes. We've got a few helpers today, Todd Alford, Kate Chappett, and James will also kind of chime in there, or we can also answer those live. All right, just a brief overview of the webinars. Here's a couple of the upcoming webinar topics for the simulation Moldflow product specifically. We're going to talk a little bit about Moldflow Advisor in one of our future webinars, as well as API configuration, so using scripts within Moldflow Insight. And if you're not aware, we do record these webinars and post them to our YouTube channel listed there, Autodesk Simulation or Sim 360, excuse me. And if you go there, the recording will be up there. And then we also post these online afterwards, the presentation portion of it. Now, some of the past webinars that you can see on that YouTube channel are ones such as performing DOEs and matching simulation to reality. So those are just a couple of them. We do have several others on there, as well as other simulation products such as CFD, Simulation Mechanical, and our Helios product line. Now, if you got this link from someone else or are just looking to sign up for other simulation product webinars, you can also go to either simulation forums or the autodesk.com/help webinars website there, and you could sign up for them that route. You can also go to the Sim Hub and then the events section of the website, and that can also redirect you to the sign-up sheet for all the different webinars. And just as a reminder, since we are part of the support organization here, I just wanted to remind everyone that we do post several of our knowledge articles, so articles we get from either cases with customers such as yourselves, or just things that we feel we want to share with everyone. We post them to knowledge.autodesk.com, our knowledge website. And here's a few of our articles that we've recently posted, including troubleshooting, how-to, and so forth. Now on to the good stuff. Today we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what SimStudio Tools is and how to use it to prep geometry within simulation products, as well as kind of hone towards the Moldflow application side of things. And then we'll go into a demo portion where James will help out with showing how to create geometry as well as how to edit geometry in it. All right, so Before we get into this, what I'm going to do is actually launch a poll here and see how many people get, or see where you get your geometry from. So you can either get them from a coworker, other customers that you have, they send them to you and you just work with analyzing it, or you're just really not sure where you come from, so just put down, I just analyze it. All right, great. It looks like most of you are getting it from your customers, but some of you are getting it also from coworkers who work more with the CAD software. Okay, I'll go ahead and close out those polls. It looks like most of you have voted, and share those results for you. And you can see there, most of you, as mentioned, do get it from your customers, about 50%. But at the same time, several of you kind of work internally and just get them from your coworkers. So we'll go ahead and close that out there. And let me share one more poll with you right now. Let's see. There we go. And this one's just asking, do you currently use a CAD repair program? Do you use something like CAD Doctor that Autodesk has? Or do you use a built-in program within your CAD program? Or a different kind of CAD modification program? Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and close those out. It looks like most of you have voted, and share those results. So it looks like most of you do have another CAD editing program that you use, but a few of you do also use CAD Doctor as well as one that's built into your CAD program. And then a couple of you are pretty confident your CAD is perfect and you don't run into too many issues whenever you're meshing in Moldflow. Great. All right, we'll get back to the presentation here. And so for SimStudio Tools, when you're looking to actually install the product, if you're not aware of it being installed on your system currently, it's actually included in the Simulation 2016 product installations. So it's included in anything from Moldflow Advisor and Synergy to Simulation Mechanical, CFD, and even the Flex product line. And you can see there in the screenshot, it shows it listed in the installation menu there as one of the products to either check or uncheck whenever you're installing the product. So if you didn't see it installed on your computer currently, what you can do is just run through the installation for 2016 simulation product again, and that'll actually pop up there, and you could just check that box and it'll install it for you. And that link listed there, as mentioned, we'll share this PowerPoint presentation afterwards, but it's actually a presentation that a few of our developers created, just showing kind of the highlights of SimStudio Tools. So it's something to take a look at after this presentation here and kind of compare notes and see if there's anything in there that can help with your learning of SimStudio Tools. All right, the big thing here, licensing. Now, when it comes to Autodesk products, I know many of you are kind of iffy, or many customers are a little iffy on licensing, how it works and things like that. What's great about SimStudio Tools is there's no extra license you need to set up. So once you have that simulation product installed, it'll actually just take a look at that license when you're looking to open SimStudio Tools and actually open up the product without pulling the license. So you can continue working on your simulation product without having to pull that license down, and at the same time work with SimStudio Tools. Now, if you do run into some issues like the error shown there where it's saying it's not able to find the license, we in support do see that occasionally with some customers, so we did list a few troubleshooting tips there. As mentioned, you need to have the 2016 simulation product installed. Sometimes you have to launch that product first before launching SimStudio Tools, and sometimes you also have to run it as an administrator. And listed there is just an article on that Knowledge Network website listing a few additional suggestions if you're continuing to run into trouble with launching that product. All right, so all this talk about licensing and installations, what about the good stuff? What is SimStudio Tools? Many of you are familiar with Inventor Fusion with previous versions of our simulation products. So it was similar to Inventor where you can edit your geometry in it and pull it back into your sim product without really having to leave the simulation product. It just pushes it into that product. That's how SimStudio Tools is also. You can edit geometry in it. The big thing with SimStudio Tools is you can actually repair and optimize your geometry as well. So as mentioned earlier, about 50% of you were getting your geometry from your customers. In this case, if you see a little issue with the model after you import it into Moldflow or your other simulation product, you can actually go into SimStudio Tools from Moldflow and edit and fix that geometry and pull it back into the modeling program. And we'll actually demo this just so you're kind of more familiar with how that workflow goes. So we mentioned a little bit earlier the CAD modification programs such as CAD Doctor. CAD Doctor is an Autodesk product where it kind of searches through your model for any issues that could cause trouble when meshing the model in Moldflow. And you can see there it's got several different error fixing techniques, and you can even run an auto heal through that. Now, SimStudio Tools, as mentioned, you have you have the ability to fix issues within the model. And here's just kind of an example here, and it walks you through, gives you tips and tricks on how you would be able to fix the issue, as well as how to fix it manually or auto fix. So we'll definitely go through an example of this just to show kind of where to start with that. And then also, as you can see on the right-hand side there, Remove Features tool. So that's similar to the simplification feature in CAD Doctor. However, this one kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility on selecting the actual curves of it. Now, we don't want to kind of deter you from using CAD Doctor or your other CAD modification programs, but it's just another option there. It's a free program, so you can give it a try and see if it'll work for you. All right, now towards prepping geometry. And as mentioned, we will go into a demo kind of showing this a little bit more. James is pretty good with all these features here, so he's good at explaining most of these. But I just wanted to show you kind of the different geometry modification options within SimStudio Tools. So you can see here there's options for solid and surface editing and creation. So for instance, you could see you have the basic create a box, cylinder, sphere, those types of commands, as well as a little bit more advanced commands such as sweeps, lofts, and even creating pipes or webs. And same goes for the surface features, same options there, but you also get the thicken features and boundary fill options. And then for modification, you get a press pull feature, which James will go into explaining a little bit further there. And then the basic ones such as fillet, chamfers, and stitching, unstitching, and merging. And then there's also the pattern, thicken, and mirror commands as well. So it's really something to just play around with and see if it is an option for creating geometry in your situation. All right, now into the simplify and repair tools. So listed there, I do have a couple videos. We will go into kind of the basics on using these features within the demo portion of this presentation, but I just wanted to give you those videos as another resource in case you want to refer back to them. So you can see there's a whole simplify tab where you can remove features, faces, and even suppress and unsuppress objects in there. And then there's also a really neat command for replace with primitives. So if you have an assembly file, you can actually replace those with, or more advanced features with either a rectangle or sphere or something of that sort to make it less intensive for meshing purposes. And then moving on to the repair features tool there, you can see there's a find and fix feature as well as an auto fix. So similar to the auto heal in CAD Doctor, it'll go through and automatically fix your geometry. And as mentioned a little bit earlier, we do have the push to and from Moldflow and other simulation products. So we'll demo this a little bit further in the next few minutes here. So at this point, I'll go ahead and launch another poll here before we move on to the demo and let James set up here. And go ahead and launch that for you. And this is just general question. Have you launched SimStudio Tools before? All right. Great, so it looks like most of you have answered, so I'll go ahead and close out of this poll for you and share those results. So it looks like most of you have dabbled into it, at least opened the product, about 50% of you. A few of you saw it there but didn't really know what it was, so you just left it. And 25% didn't even know you had it. Great. So love to be able to show you that feature and at least make you aware that it's there and able to kind of dabble into that. I'll go ahead and close that out again. And James, were you able to get set up there? You there, James?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, we can see your screen now, so you should be good.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristen. All right, so from the polls, it sounds like a lot of you guys get your geometry from your customers. So SimStudio Tools really is a good kind of product where you'll be able to edit your geometry before throwing it into your simulation software. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the basic steps to creating geometries. Obviously, this is like any other CAD program, so I'm not going to run through the really basics, but I'm going to try to highlight some features that really isn't typical of most of your CAD packages. So right now I have an ellipse created, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is show the first feature, which is the press-pull command that Kristen was mentioning earlier. So the press-pull command is a really cool command that really, it's a smart command depending on what you choose. So in this instance I chose a face, so now it knew that it wanted to extrude. So I'll go ahead and I'll extrude this, 10 millimeters. And yeah, so I'll just go ahead and start creating really simple geometry and kind of walk through my steps and kind of show some of the different features. So we'll go ahead and we'll create a sketch here, and we'll go ahead and create a couple circles. Put one here. We'll go ahead and make that 30 millimeters. And we'll throw in a line here because I'm going to show you the mirror command. So we use this as a mirror line. I'll go ahead and dimension this. I'll put this 55 meters away from the edge. Okay, and now I'll go ahead and show that I'll mirror this object around this line, and we should, when we check our dimension, be able to see that it is 55 millimeters away from the edge as well. And it is. Perfect. Alright, so we'll go ahead and close this sketch. And what we can do now is, one of the other things that is kind of, I guess, unique to SimStudio as well as the Fusion platform is you have these light bulbs where you can just turn on your visibility easily, and it'll allow you to click things a little easier. So I'll go ahead and select the hole, and we'll use press pull again, which will, since I chose a face, it'll allow me to bring it up. We'll extrude that 60 millimeters. I have to turn the bodies back on in order to see it. And we'll turn the sketch back on. And now I'll use the shell command in order to make this a hollow. Okay, hide the body. And now we'll extrude these circles. I'm using the press pull command again. We'll make this 55 millimeters. We'll go ahead and turn the visibility of our bodies back on, so now we can see that I have 2 columns as well as my shelled out arena, and it's quick. Press pull is really a quick, neat tool, but here's where it differs a little. So let's say I want to make some holes in this. We'll create a sketch, and let's draw a couple circles. And as you can see, those center points from the original circles that I had still are there, so I'm able to kind of project geometry onto my new sketches. So we'll go ahead and make this, yeah, we'll go ahead and make that 12 millimeters. That's good. We'll do the same over here. Perfect. So now what we can go ahead and do is I'll show you how press pull differs in this case, where I will be able to, sometimes it's hard to click, you gotta hide the bodies.
So yeah, it's very similar to a CAD program, right, James?
Yeah, it's no different. This is really where I wanted to show kind of what was going on here. So you'll notice that if I go up, I'll be extruding this. But now if I pull down into the feature, you see how everything turns red? So now I'm actually using the cut command. So I don't really have a separate command for these. I can just go ahead and use the same thing. So we'll go ahead and cut into that. Whoops, negative 15 millimeters. Perfect. All right, so again, press pull is really cool. And the other thing that you can do too is if, for example, I select a plane and I use press pull, that'll offset my plane. In this instance, I can go ahead and click an edge and use press pull, and now it wants me to create a fillet. So it really is a neat tool that I really wanted to highlight throughout all of this. And I guess the last thing that I want to show is, I guess, projecting and visibility. So what we can do is go ahead and create a sketch down here. And what we can do is we'll go ahead and open our bodies, and we'll go ahead and hide those 2 bodies. So now we only see these. But actually, there is one more step I want to do before this. Let's go ahead and put a draft on these. We can go into the Modify and hit Draft. And for our plane, we'll choose the XZ plane, and we'll flip the direction, and we'll throw it at 6 degrees. Perfect. So now we have a cone shape. So this kind of hints at what I was going at. As you can see, we're able to project that geometry on here. So if I go into the sketch that I made and I edit it, I can go ahead and sketch some circles again. And you'll notice I can still click that center point, but I can also snap to where the actual body edge is. And again, I'll close it, I'll select, and select. And what you'll notice now I can do is I'll be able to use the press pull again to cut through these bodies. But now you'll notice that that's in the way, so I'd be cutting through them. One unique little tip that I can give you guys is if you actually go ahead and we'll hide body 3 and body 4, getting those out of the way. And so now they're not in the way when I cut them. So I'm able to just pull this through. I don't need to know any sort of measurements, and I'll be able to cut through it. Perfect. So I'll go ahead and do that, and you'll notice when I turn body 3 and 4 back on, they were untouched. And you can see that I was able to put a hole that went through it. Perfect. I guess the last few things that I really want to just give a quick touch on is the repair tool that Kristen mentioned earlier. So one thing I'll do is we'll click it, and since I just built it, it realistically shouldn't have any errors. But let's find out how well I did. And we'll click Find and Fix, and yep, so no errors were had. And another way you can check this is if you go into Show Repair Browser. So right now I'm in my model browser, and I'll go ahead and click Show Repair Browser. and you'll notice that it has a green check mark. There's no potential issues. On the chance that there might be some potential issues, let's say you're bringing in a SolidWorks assembly or something that's non-native, when you bring it in, there might be some issues, and they'll highlight them here and they'll tell you what they are, and it'll actually pinpoint where on your model there is. Another good little trick that I like to use too is if you go into the Inspect menu, you can actually click Section Analysis, and let's say I choose this face. I can bring it down, and you'll notice that it's a solid, which is a good sign. So for example, if I didn't have a complete geometry, there's a good chance that it might be patchwork, just surface materials that didn't exactly was able to become a solid efficiently. And also, one other thing I would like to point out is in your Preferences menu, you'll notice here when you bring in your geometry, it automatically will fix and report it. But if you don't want to do that, you can actually change some of these features in this menu. Okay. Oh.
And also, James, I did want to add on that options menu just pulled up. If you do run into, say, you're opening up SimStudio Tools and you're trying to import a part and it's taking a very long time, if you switch it from that fix and report issues to just import the part, then that'll actually reduce that checking when you're first initially importing the part, and you can bring it into SimStudio Tools. It'll take a little less time loading, and then you can manually launch that fix and report issues through that report or repair toolbar there. It just in case you do run into a slow import process.
Perfect. Thanks, Kristen, for that. Yeah, and I ran a little fast through that sketch, but really, that's pretty typical of most sketch softwares. Really, what I wanted to highlight again was just that press pull feature. You're able to click a surface, an edge, a plane, and it'll guess on what you're trying to do based on that, which is what, in my opinion, really makes the whole SimStudio suite kind of unique to other geometry repair tools that I've seen. So now let's actually get into repairing it and simplifying your model. So right here, as you see, we have a GoPro case, which is made up of 3 components. The first component is pretty much the whole case as is. And then on the back here, you can see that there's 2 littler components that make up just 2 rods that it looks like goes into the mount. So one thing that we can do, a neat little trick to kind of, you notice that this has a lot of parts. What we can do is we can color coordinate them by going in the Inspect menu and turn on Component Color Cycling toggle. And now you can clearly see which is in what component tree. So the first simplify tool that I want to show is suppressing a feature. So realistically, we're not going to touch these 2 little pins for now. So I'll go over to the browser menu and I will click these and go up into my simplify menu and click suppress. So now I didn't actually delete them from my geometry. They're just suppressed from the model and they won't be used now. So another really useful tool is to use the remove features in the simplify menu. So this is a really neat tool that Kristen brought up earlier in her PowerPoint that what you can do is you'll click the body, thinking, and in the features I can select which features I would like it to highlight. In this case we'll just do fillets for now to make it go quick. And in this menu I can change the size. So if I want a really small piece or if I want to kind of include more in this deletion process, we'll go ahead and choose a minimum amount. Kristen, did you have something to input? Or?
Yeah, so that feature really comes into handy with, especially for Moldflow, where rounds really aren't, or very small rounds really aren't going to be super critical to the analysis. So that you can run into meshing issues whenever you're going to mesh very fine rounds. So if you do the feature size to a smaller round or fillet, what it'll do is actually just delete those smaller ones. Or you can, I believe James might go into the chain select so you can manually select which ones you want to remove from there.
Yep, thanks, Kristen. Yeah, so just I guess the final thing that I want to hint on with the remove features is you can actually go into manual features, and you'll notice up here it's selected this top edge. Let's assume that I didn't want this top one to be selected. I can go in and you'll notice what she just mentioned with the chain select. It actually knew that I wouldn't want that whole fillet around in my manual feature to be deleted. So I went ahead and added that in. And now that won't get rid of when I press delete at the bottom. So let's go ahead and press delete. Now, one thing to keep in mind is it's going to try to delete all these highlighted parts. It's not a definite that it might. It's going to try what it can. And realistically, it's not going to delete things that might screw up your geometry. It can only delete things that it'll be able to heal correctly. And usually it does a pretty good job, but I have a feeling that this line right here it might not be able to get rid of because it's not fully highlighted. So we'll go ahead and press delete, see what happens. Okay, it's still thinking. A lot of little parts. Perfect.
We do have a question here from Harold, just kind of mentioning what you had mentioned before where it didn't delete it. So I think James is going to cut in or kind of touch base on that right now.
Yeah, so the things that are highlighted in red right now are things that won't be able to be deleted. Now, what SimStudio does is when it goes ahead and deletes these lines, it then goes ahead and thinks ahead a couple steps as to how it can repair it so you don't have incorrect geometry. So if you were to notice, if I was just to get rid of these two fillets, it would try to create a flat surface in between this face and this face, but it wouldn't be able to do that because I still have these curves down here. So it wouldn't be able to correctly delete this fillet without being able to, I guess, delete more of this in order to kind of guess on how to heal it correctly. So what it does is it leaves it alone for now, and you're going to have to go back in later and manually delete these fillets, which can take some guesswork and a little bit of expertise in order to figure out what the exact order is that you need to delete it in such a way that SimStudio realizes that it can fix it. Another method that you can do is we'll go up here and we'll do the remove face, which is more of a manual process. But this also hints into what Kristen was saying with the chain select. So you'll notice I clicked that and it turns red, and I only clicked one line, but it was able to select 7 based on it. So we'll go ahead and click delete, and if you notice before that, it was kind of a hole. I know it's a little hard to see with this color, but it's a hole. So we'll go ahead and click this, and we'll hit delete, and you'll notice it got rid of it. So this is a good example of how it healed the geometry properly. It was able to take all of those in its chain and know that once it got rid of those, I needed a flat face. Which, again, you can also do the same thing by just clicking and pressing delete, but there is a good chance that you might delete stuff that you don't want to. So for example, I just made that look curved by taking off that face, which wasn't the intended, or it might not have been the intention. Okay. And as far as it goes, I think that that covers a good majority of the simplified features. It just takes playing around with that, as well as if you have any errors when you bring in your geometry, to just go in and really modify your geometry. SimStudio Tools does a good job of really pinpointing where your errors are and what is causing those errors. And if you do have any errors, that's good playing around. And as far as the simplified tools go, that, for the most part, Kristen in her PowerPoint went ahead and talked about replacing with primitives, which is a really useful technique to getting rid of some more complex features. I believe that covers most of the features. Kristen, did you have anything to
add? No, I think that covered pretty much all of those there. Now, I did want to bring up the idealized toolbar there. That is actually still a work in progress. It works for some of the simulation products, but for Moldflow, it's actually still being developed. So you might run into issues if you're trying the mid-plane test there. But in that case, we are currently still working on that. But other than that, I think, James, you did a great job with that. Now, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and switch it back to my screen and show you how to actually push this into Simulation Moldflow. So let me go ahead and switch it over here, see if this works. Okay, perfect. So let me... All right, so here I just have the GoPro model that James had been working on before. As seen here, I just suppressed those 2 random features at the back of it that were modeled into it, and this was just a model I pulled from GrabCAD. So those were just extra features in there for the entire assembly. Now, say I just wanted to export this portion here, not those 2 little features. to Moldflow or another simulation product. You can keep those suppressed and it won't actually export those. It'll just kind of focus in on what is active. So up here in the add-ons menu, or add-ins menu here, you can see the different simulation products. So in this case, I have Simulation Mechanical Flex, Moldflow Insight, Advisor, and then Moldflow Flex. And what's nice about SimStudio Tools is if, say, you didn't want to focus on the standalone version, so you want to get rid of those from what you're seeing up here as the shortcut menu, you can actually remove those. So we can remove Advisor and just leave those Flex products up there for now. Or if you wanted to re-add those up there, you can always just click the arrow back up like that. And that's same for several of these. You can see here the little X next to it. If you remove that, it'll customize that menu to better work with your workflow. So if you're not really using the suppress feature tool, you can remove that and keep room for a better workflow from left to right, kind of with the ribbon there. Now, whenever you do want to push it into a simulation product, all you have to do is push it by selecting that button. You want to make sure it's saved, so we'll go ahead and save it as the test model here. And sometimes it takes a minute or two just to open up the simulation product depending on which one you're opening there. And whenever it first launches, you can see here you can create a new project with it or open and import it into an existing product or project. So in this case, we'll just create a new one here, say SimStudio Test. Click OK. And now you're just getting into the typical Moldflow features. So here you could see the product. It did have some simplification done to it, so there's a few rounds. So here a small round was removed on the simplification tools in SimStudio. And you can basically go from here, create your mesh. Oops. Create your mesh as normal, and everything would work fine. Now, say you import it into Moldflow, or you import a customer's model into Moldflow without taking it into SimStudio first. And you notice a little feature or something that you really don't want in there, or you want to model something differently on it. Now, as mentioned, you can go to the Geometry tab here, and right here where the Inventor Fusion button used to be, the SimStudio Tools button is now here. So you click it. Same workflow as the Inventor Fusion workflow, where you select which CAD body you want to bring in and select Apply. And notice a prompt comes up that says that you cannot close out of Moldflow while you're working in the SimStudio part. That's just because there is that interaction between the two products. So we'll go ahead and close that out. And we'll pull SimStudio back up. Now normally this would launch on its own, but since I had it launched already, it just opened this back up for me. And right now it's working with that product. So you can tell that you're working with a product that's open, or a model that's open in your simulation program by looking up here. You can see the return button here. And if you click on that, that'll just return it back to Moldflow, similar to the Inventor Fusion workflow. So now you can go in, say we wanted to, I don't know, delete this face here. Oops, not that one. We'll do the simplify, remove feature, and actually we'll just do the fillets for now, make it a little bit more simple. All right. And there we go. We'll say we want to remove that one. Go ahead, click delete. There we go. So that will kind of save us from some mesh fixing within Moldflow and return it back over to Moldflow. So there you go. There's the new one. You could see the round was removed there. And also, what it does is it creates a new study for you. So you still have the original one if we switch back over to it that you can compare and run an analysis on this part. But if you wanted to, say, make that little change and see if it had any influence on the results, you can still open up this study here and run through it again and kind of compare the two via the results panels. All right, that's pretty much all I had today. So let me go ahead and switch back to the presentation now. Swap those. There we go. So in summary, today we discussed how to use SimStudio Tools to resolve geometry issues or to streamline your workflow. We reviewed the differences between SimStudio Tools and CAD Doctor, as well as some additional features that are available within SimStudio Tools. And we also demonstrated the workflow for creating, modifying, and simplifying the geometry, as well as repairing it. And finally, we experimented with the geometry push to and from Moldflow and other simulation products. So if you're working within a different simulation product, it'll be set up very similarly to the workflow that I just went through for Moldflow. All right, now I'm going to open it up for questions for a few moments here, maybe 5-10 minutes, depending on how many questions there are. James, Kate, do you see any questions in there? Or Todd, do you want to bring up anything different?
We got a question about intermittent releases. I wanted to at least state that I don't believe that we're rolling out with the service packs of the simulation products. I don't think we're updating SimStudio as well. I believe that's being left alone, but there is a Autodesk Labs of SimStudio platform that actually has all the capabilities of SimStudio currently and is being worked on to try and fix any workflow issues, and also has the ability to do mechanical simulations. And
nice.
From this,
all right, so it sounds like they would be, or anyone interested in that would be able to go to autodesk.com/labs and be able to sign up for one of those programs and experiment with that portion of it, right?
Yep.
Perfect.
And also I wanted to point out, if anybody uses CFD as well, that we don't push back and forth. CFD is kind of a one-way. We always push in. We don't pull the geometry back out, but just know that from being a CFD guy.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, and that's similar actually for the advisor workflow as well. Advisor, you might not see that push or pull feature in the Moldflow interface. So it'd be similar where you would just have to open it up in SimStudio Tools rather than push it into it from the product. All right. Anything else to add, anyone, or is that about it? Okay, sounds like that's all the questions there. So let me go ahead and mention here. I did list here that we did do a few live Q&As there, but if any questions come up after you get time to experiment a little bit with this SimStudio Tools, feel free to post them on the forums. You know, we're always in there checking into questions that customers have, and even after these webinars, we tend to keep an eye on them just in case any questions pop up after the fact. And if you are on subscription, feel free to contact us in support through the normal Autodesk account venue, and then we'd be happy to help you there. All right, and listed here I just have some additional resources that you can take a look at. As mentioned, this will be posted to our YouTube channel as well as the slide deck will be posted to the website listed at the bottom of the screen there, autodesk.box.com/moldflow12. And you'll be able to click on these links here that take you to the different resources for the help files, additional how-to videos for SimStudio Tools, as well as the Knowledge Network. And as always, thank you for attending the webinar for Simulation Moldflow this month, and we look forward to seeing you next month.